is preparing video stream. CJ, not right now. CJ.
Hi, Kitty Cat. Hello, everybody. Hopefully everyone is doing well this evening. Thank you so much for hanging with us for a few minutes while we worked through some technical issues, but we're glad to all be here now and to get this event going. So my name is Jamie Southern. I am the operations director for Bookmarks. Bookmarks, if you're unfamiliar, is a nonprofit literary arts organization and an independent bookstore. We are based in Winston-Salem, North Carolina. It's about in the middle of the state, if you're unfamiliar with North Carolina. And we typically do a lot of in-person events. Unfortunately, 2020 has put a kind of a hold on those in-person events, but it's also given us the opportunity to do some amazing virtual events, and are so glad to have the two writers here with us tonight who otherwise would probably not be traveling to North Carolina, especially Lauren on the other side of the world tonight from us. So thank you for joining us virtually this evening. A few things, since we are using Crowdcast tonight, some of you might not be familiar with Crowdcast. I just want to direct your attention to the chat over, should be on the over bottom corner of your screen. If you want to tell us where you're from, if you haven't already, we'd love to know where you're joining us from this evening. If you have any questions for our author guests this evening, please type those into the chat, and our moderator will get to those towards the second half of the program. So thank you all again for joining us. I'm going to introduce our guests and then turn it over to them, and we'll get started. So Kevin Kwan is the author of Crazy Rich Asians, the international best-selling novel that has been translated into more than 30 languages. Sequel China Rich Girlfriend was released in 2015, and then Rich People Problems, the final book in the trilogy, followed in 2017. Several weeks, months, the books have appeared on the New York Times bestselling list, as well as several other bestselling lists around the world. You might have seen the film adaptation, which I thought was lovely and fabulous. And I hope that we will see a film adaptation of Sex and Vanity as well. So maybe Kevin can talk a little bit to that as well. In 2018, Kevin was named by Time magazine one of the 100 most influential people in the world. So I feel very, very lucky to have you with us tonight, Kevin. Thank you. Lauren Ho is a reformed legal counsel who writes funny stories. Hailing from Malaysia, she lived in the UK, France, Luxembourg, and before moving with her family to Singapore, where she is working on her next novel, and we are all anxiously awaiting that book. Her new novel, her first novel, Last Hang Standing, she says is not based on her mother at all, seriously. So we'll have to ask her about that for sure. Thank you, Lauren, for joining us. And then last but certainly not least, Virginia Price is going to be our fabulous moderator this evening. Virginia is manager of in-house sales at Penguin Random House. She works with about 80 independent bookstores around the country, mostly in the Southeast and Midwest regions, including Bookmarks here in North Carolina, which is how we got to know Virginia. She also has a fabulous cat named Mr. Buttons, who we love. And she also has a fabulous new YouTube channel called Small Stacks of Book Reviews. And she provides really short, good glimpses into some books that she recommends. And it's just a really fabulous YouTube channel. So hope you will check that out as well. So I'm going to turn this over to all three of our guests and get them on screen. And then I'm going to disappear because you don't want to hear from me anymore. Let's see. I should be getting you guys connected here. There we go. Hello. Hello.
Hello. Hi.
Thank you guys so much for being here tonight. We're getting Virginia on. There we go. Okay, thank you guys. I'm gonna go away and let you take it away.
Thanks, Jamie. So welcome everyone to this incredible event. Here we are tonight to talk with Lauren Ho, the author of Last Tang Standing, and Kevin Kwan, the author of Sex and Vanity, among many other books. Both are absolutely fantastic, and I am so glad to have you guys here. Thanks for coming. So let's get started with some conversation points. One of the biggest things about these books, and I absolutely love them, I know everyone who's watching this will very much enjoy these books as well, is your focus. Both stories have a great focus on Asian culture and the importance of family, whether they're there to help or make life lovingly frustrating. So let's talk about that. Let's talk about Asian culture. Why was it important for you to portray these topics in your stories? And we'll go from there.
Ladies first.
Oh no!
About Lauren on your beautiful book. I just started reading it, and it's giving me PTSD. I have to say. So I really do want to know why you chose to write about your Asian family. So please.
I kind of want to attend the next Chinese New Year gathering I have with my family, without getting too much flack. So I'm just going to stick to the author party line, which is like everything I wrote in the book is fictional. And I got inspiration from like other people's families and not mine. And my relatives, for the record, are nothing like the conniving, over enthusiastic matchmakers that you see in my book. So I hope that covers it. Back to you, Kevin.
Well, I also wrote a book about people I don't know and am not related to whatsoever. And I just feel like you have to write from your place of truth. At least that was what I was taught back in creative writing school. And I never thought it would actually express itself in the way that it did. I think it's pretty well known. When I first started trying to write these books, I was really intent on writing a very, very serious, angry book, about these crazy families, and wealth inequality and how badly they treated people that tried to marry into the families. And out of nowhere, this other book emerged. And so I think it does actually come from a place of love, because at the end of the day, as much as family drives you crazy and frustrates you, you still can't help but love them, So that's what I chose to do. And, like Lauren, the books really, they are not my family. I mean, they're really inspired by little snippets of, things that have happened and I've witnessed over my life, but it's all interwoven into fiction. That's why it is fiction. Real life is not that interesting.
Exactly, Mom.
Yeah.
If you're watching.
Wink. That's awesome. So let's talk about furthermore into the Asian culture. One of the biggest themes that I pulled from both your books was the struggle between the idea of traditional versus modern values. Both of our heroines, Lucy from Sex and Vanity and Andrea from Last Tang Standing, they both have this constant struggle with trying to balance the two, what they're supposed to do versus what they want to do. And the struggle is so real. So why were those themes important for you all to talk about in your books?
Lauren?
Am I always going to be the one going first?
I mean, we don't have to. I just thought it's only polite, but I'm happy to switch it up sometimes. So, yeah.
Well, for me, I mean, this was, again, I need to stress that I didn't experience this growing up. I mean, my parents were pretty cool about stuff. They're not tiger parents at all. But I think this is a common theme for a lot of Asian families, and children growing up in these kind of households, that they kind of have to follow this life plan that their parents set up. So I think it's especially prevalent in like immigrant families, right? I'm not just Asian, but because they have gone through a lot of hardship to get to a certain point in their life, and they kind of want to make sure that their children don't suffer the same things, suffer if you wish, and so to sort of like cut, to sort of like limit any potential that they might have to suffer, they just give them this life plan, and you go like, okay, if you follow this life plan, you're gonna be on a guaranteed road to success. And so I thought that would really strike a chord with many people reading it, regardless of their background, and that's why I wrote the book that I wrote. So yeah.
That's an awesome response. I know I definitely felt that, as my mother is an immigrant from the Philippines. So I think you did a great job portraying a lot of this. What do you have to say, Kevin?
Well, this new character, Lucy Tang Churchill in Sex and Vanity, is kind of, spectacularly screwed up because she's getting so many different conflicting messages. Being a biracial Asian American, her mother is fourth generation Asian American from Seattle, and she's a rebel. Her mom is a rebel. Is kind of sublimating her Asian identity and doesn't want her kids to deal with all the baggage that she had to deal with from her mom, So we've got that on one side. And then on the other side of her family, she comes from a very, very privileged WASP, the white Anglo-Saxon Protestant elite East Coast background, which has its own can of worms. So this is someone really caught between two classes and two cultures at the same time. And then also having to deal with what society and modern day expectations, are placed on her. So I just felt it would be, creating this character who was biracial and also of two different social classes would really be able to sort of look at issues in a very meaningful way.
Could I just ask a question, Virginia?
Of course.
So Kevin, I have a question because I'm obviously a big fan of your books. And there are some, I just started reading Sex and Vanity yesterday, and I already picked up on the issues that you mentioned. And I was just curious because your books, they examine some pretty weighty issues. And for example, in Sex and Vanity, you have topics like internalized racism, racial prejudice. And I know this is really difficult to do well, especially in what is essentially a feel-good book. And, this is also a recurring theme that I picked up in, I think, Crazy Rich Asians, because there was a line where Rachel Chu said, there was a line where Rachel was teased about not dating Asian boys. And I just wanted to ask you, how do you do this so deftly without compromising the tone of the book or sounding preachy? So I feel like you do it really well. And I wanted to maybe get your tips.
Yeah, thank you. Really, that's really sweet of you to say. I'm kind of a mess when I write. I have no formula. I have no outline. I have no tricks up my sleeve. So that's why I'd be a horrible teacher. People are always asking me, "Oh, teach me that." I'm the last person to teach anyone anything, because if you look at my writing board and how I put together a chapter, I pile words onto a page and scenes, and I slowly sort of arrange them till they make sense to me. But yeah, I think I'm just trying to always create multifaceted characters, And I think a lot of why it works is because I'm very inspired by real people, So whenever I create a character or write a character, there's always 3 or 4 people that I'm thinking of as I create the composite of who the characters are. So it's Lucy, for example. She's a composite of 4 or 5 real people I know. Who are biracial, who are who've all dealt with different experiences growing up as biracial, and I sort of sprinkle a little bit of them into each of the characters, and hopefully people connect with it, and hopefully it's still fun, right? It's not I'm not trying to write books that are total downers, at least not yet.
I get it.
Yeah,
that's great. That was my only question for now, Virginia. So
it was a great question.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I mean, both characters are fascinating. I mean, I definitely, as a biracial person, I definitely related to Lucy and some of the things that, the way she had to interact with both sides of her family, and how there's that particular question. It's not spoiling anything, I promise, audience, where Rosemary asks her, "What is your heritage?" And it's such a small question, but it's also a very important question that properly captures what biracial people have to do when they're set in one family event or another. So that was really cool.
It's funny you mentioned that.
Yeah.
Because I actually had a friend of mine who is biracial who just read the book and said, Kevin, like, I screenshotted that line and sent it to with friends, because he's like, the amount of times I've been asked questions just like what Rosemary asked. Stunning. And he's like, how did you know that? And it's like, well, I just observed my friends, my cousins, like so many people being asked that question all the time, and usually always by Asians, because Asians, whereas, Americans, Westerners are actually much more polite and diplomatic about it, so sorry to interrupt, but just thought I'd
Oh no! This is meant to be conversational and casual. I want you guys to just we're talking. We're all talking about these wonderful books and Asian culture in general. But let's talk about the heroines for a little bit here. So we have two different women from very different types of situations. Andrea is, from The Last Tank Standing, is a woman who is very successful. She has her life set out with this plan to become partner at this huge law firm. She's partying it up. She's living her life. Lucy, on the other hand, is very, a little more conservative. She kind of, anything that she does wrong is caught, unfortunately, on camera. And that kind of sets her off for her story, that she doesn't want to constantly be in the spotlight. She wants to stay away. But both women, I think, are very incredible heroines in their own way. Like, they're very inspirational, and I'd love to learn more. You've mentioned this briefly already, Kevin, how Lucy is an amalgamation of 4 people but what made Lucy stick out for you? And then for you, Lauren, what made Andrea stick out as this is the woman you wanted to write about?
So I'll go first. Well, I think this time around, this book is really an homage also to A Room with View by E.M. Forster. So I think I had the advantage of, first of all, having Forster create such an amazing character in Lucy Honeychurch, his book from 1908. And that's always been a character who I have loved, or been very frustrated with, either way. It's been she's a great literary heroine in her own right. So I started there. That was my departure point. And I really asked myself, like, if I wanted to really take this book and pay homage to it and make it relevant for this day and age, what do I have to do? And so over a period of many years, just thinking about it, I just felt like she has to be biracial. She has to, Lucy Honeychurch is struggling with being a modern woman in 1908 in the Edwardian age, which was supposed to be the greatest generation of British society. That it was at a point where Britain was at its most powerful, at its peak, and yet she's so tied back by the Victorian mores of the previous age that really ended in 1901. So she's torn, in that way. And I was like, what would be the modern day equivalent? Because now we can't just get away with saying, a millennial versus Generation Z or whatever. I had to create more of a conflict, And so it was really staring me in the face. And really, I just had these amazing examples of really great, strong women that I've seen having to deal with being biracial in America or in Asia or in Australia, or wherever they might be. And I just thought it'd be a fascinating way to sort of to capture that story.
I love that. Lauren?
So Andrea was actually based, conceived from a stand-up comedy set I was doing. So for some background, I used to be an amateur stand-up comic for 2 years, in Singapore. And I was talking about, I was talking about like conditional love and unconditional love and Asian parents, and suddenly like I got this vision from above, and I saw Andrea, and I was like, oh, okay, there's something there, and I just basically took some time to develop the character more, and that's how I got the idea for Andrea. And of course, I put like some of the some personality traits that I have inherently into Andrea, but not the drinking, not the drinking.
That's
Yeah.
awesome. I mean, if I
Yeah.
drink half as much as Andrea drinks, my liver would be gone. It's so
Not the drinking.
yeah. So let's talk about the men in their lives, though, because at the heart of both of your stories is a love story. And we had talked already about tradition versus modern values, and the men are also pretty much parallel to that theme. You have the Mr. Right for the family, and then you have the Mr. Right for our heroines. So let's talk about the men. We have George and Cecil in Sex and Vanity, and then we have Suresh and Eric in Last Hang Standing. Both are all fantastic characters, but some of them are a little better than others, I have to say. So yeah, let's talk about them. What do you guys? How did they come across? How did you become inspired to create these lovely men?
Kevin, should I go first or
Totally up to you.
you want to go? Okay.
Yeah. Whatever.
By the way, I love saying the name Kevin. You know, it's like I've been practicing at home, like just saying Kevin, like very nonchalant. You know, Kevin. Okay, sorry, I'm going back. So for me, Eric and Suresh were both based on men that I had met in Singapore, and yeah. So I mean, obviously there are some embellishments so that I don't get sued for this. But basically, yes, they're both people that I know. And I mean, yeah, I wanted to examine like this whole theme about whether you should follow your heart or just settle up. In Andrea's case, settle up with the man of her parents' dreams, right? And I feel like this is a theme that's, I mean, this is something that a lot of people I know have experienced, and I wanted to put that in a book. And so that's how I came up with both characters. They're drawn from real life people. Yeah.
So based on truth, but fiction, just so that no one gets in trouble, like usual.
Yeah.
I like that. Very cool.
Yeah, they're real people. Yep.
Yeah. Kevin, I know Cecil, the name itself is from the original character in A Room with a View, but how did we get Cecil and George?
Well, they are also both sort of amalgams of different people that I know. So I do know people that are who are very much like George, and I do know people who are very much like Cecil, actually. And
I'm pronouncing it wrong. I'm sorry.
Cecil, Cecil, that's how I choose to pronounce it. But, they are really polar opposites, right? And I'm trying to say this without giving away too many spoilers. But, so you've got Cecil, who is voted by Esquire as the most desirable dude in the world, right? He's handsome. He looks like Armie Hammer. He's got several $1 billion. He doesn't seem to work. He adores Lucy. He's trying to buy her jewelry and designer dresses all the time, and whisk her off to Stad or different places. He lives a life of international fun. And there is, there are these Cecils in this world, that I personally know that don't seem to work and just kind of spend their lives traveling from resort to resort, party to party. They're part of that international party circuit of I call them millennials. That's billionaire millennials. So he's very much that character. And then there's George, who is a Hong Kong boy, but who went to high school in Australia, in Sydney. So there's a bit of a kind of a wild surfer dude in him. And now he's at Berkeley, studying environmental engineering because he's kind of like an activist eco warrior that wants to build sustainable housing developments, for poor people. So, take a wild guess. Who is Lucy falling for? Who should she not fall for? Who should she ultimately fall for? I mean, that's what my book is about. And it's interesting because, it's really her journey of discovering what she thinks she should do and what she really should. And that's her essential struggle. And of course, there's
the same.
Yeah, there's the family chiming in. But in her case, she's misunderstanding what her family wants. She's in her own land of delusion. So it's not what you think it is.
Yeah, I agree. One thing I really loved from both of your stories is how you played with perspective and how what Lucy and Andrea were both seeing and what they thought everyone wanted wasn't necessarily what people meant. Like, people actually loved them for who they were, and they were so concerned with what they wanted to be. They kind of lost track, and I'm glad that they both found it. Spoiler, sorry, but and they're just, I know.
No spoilers. No spoilers.
No.
But I wanted to make a comment to Kevin. I just wanted to say, like, George sounds like my kind of guy. Yeah.
Definitely. Except maybe without the Speedo, I have to say. The Speedo bit.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
No.
But I get that.
Not the white Speedos. Not the white Speedos, no.
Exactly. So the next thing that I wanted to do is have everyone get a little sample of your readings, because your books are pretty new, so maybe not everyone's had a chance to read them yet. So I was thinking that Lauren could kick us off by reading a passage of hers, and then Kevin, you could follow up with a passage from your book. And then during that time, if anyone in the audience has any questions that they'd like to ask Kevin and Lauren, feel free to start writing them now, and I will happily read them out after they finish reading their passages. So Lauren, take it away.
I thought I'd take this opportunity to just show you guys both the US and the UK covers. So I just got my actual books yesterday from the US, and this is my UK cover.
That's so cool.
I just showed both of them.
It's
all right,
super
and
cool.
I'm
super cool.
Thank you. I love the US cover so much. It's beautiful. This is the ARC, by the way. Okay, so I'm just gonna start reading from the scene where Andrea goes to the office and sees Suresh like she does every day. So here goes. I don't like sharing the office with Suresh, even though he smells like cinnamon. He has a habit of saying annoyingly posh things like Lou, and he's tall and conventionally boringly attractive. Golden brown skin that will turn ashy if not moisturized, maple-colored eyes framed with such thick eyelashes, he'll definitely have droopy eyelids one day, a rakish mop of silky black hair that will most likely never make it past his 40s, and if I'm held at gunpoint, a rugby player physique, but only like a so-so rugby player whose favorite food is tacos. So now I have female visitors to the office I never had before, such as my nemesis, Genevieve Bay. That's it.
That was a great scene. I really love the part about a so-so rugby player who loves tacos, because I would totally be that person. I love tacos.
So do I.
Awesome. Kevin, on to you.
Yeah, so I didn't know I had to read, so I don't know what to read.
Well, I think
do you have a favorite section that I should read, or I'm like flipping through your furiously going, what should I read?
Would it be too deep in depth if we have the conversation between her mom and brother in the art museum after they leave, as they're observing what Cecil's doing, the over-the-topness, or is that spoilery?
I think that's a little too spoilery.
Okay, darn it.
Yeah. Like, I could read the Speedo section since we did.
Yes.
I mean, we've been talking about Speedo.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Let me find.
I love it. That was so funny.
It was
Wait.
great.
Give me 1 second to find it. Let's see. Okay. So this is a scene where Lucy is at Luigi Beach Club with her friend Isabel, who's getting married in Capri. This is the whole reason Lucy has gone to Capri, because her childhood friend is getting married, having this crazy rich Asian wedding in Capri. And I actually posted photographs today on my Instagram, for those of you that go on Instagram, Kevin Kwan Books, of this beach club, which is one of the most beautiful places in the world that I've ever been to. It's just nestled between these magical rocks, and it's just very rustic and simple. And you go there for the day. You pay, I think, like €8, and they give you a deck chair and a towel, and then you can just lay out there all day long. So here she is at lunch. She's the girls have all gone swimming and sunning, and now they're at lunch. And let's see, and they're just talking. Okay, so. I've eaten at some great restaurants, but this is one of the best Italian meals I've ever had, declared Daniela. Does the food taste better because we're sitting here surrounded by this incredible view? Or is this food really that good? Isabel wondered. I think it's definitely both. Atmosphere is everything. I mean, look at the water and the rocks. And up there is my dream house, Sophie said, pointing up at a beautiful white column villa perched high on the edge of a cliff. Isn't that spectacular? I've been eyeing it all morning, Daniela said. I wonder how prices are here compared to Sydney. You can't get anything on the water for less than 10 million, Sophie said casually. I bet it's pricier than Sydney. Capri is one of the most expensive property markets in the world because they stopped allowing people to build anything new on the whole island back in the 60s. There's so little inventory, you basically have to wait for someone to die, Daniela replied. Can you imagine the view from up there, Daniela said. Ladies, stop looking up there. You're missing quite a view down here. Delicious dude alert, Amelia sturdily declared. All the heads at the table swiveled to where she was pointing. Lucy's eyes widened. Walking toward the water's edge was George Zhao, wearing nothing but a white Speedo. Stop it! That's my cousin George, Isabella shrieked. OMG, that slice of chiseled heaven is your cousin? Amelia gasped. Isabel gave Amelia a look of disbelief. Second cousin, actually. You think he's cute? Yeah, he's a total snack. You could cut diamonds on that jawline. And check out that 6-pack on him. More like 12-pack, Talitha gawked. For so long he was this scrawny little kid, I hadn't really noticed his transformation. What can I say? He's got great genes, Isabel deadpanned, flicking her hair for effort. The girls watched as George climbed up to a high rock, stretched out his arms, and executed the perfect dive into the sea. Amelia clapped her hands. I'll give that 10 points. Isabel turned to Lucy. I think you and George are at the same hotel. Have you met him yet? We've crossed paths, Lucy said, feeling her face flush. She hadn't told Isabel about switching rooms with the Zhaos yet, and now she didn't think she was ever going to. He's maybe a year ahead of you, I think. Goes to Berkeley, Isabel continued. He's very quiet, isn't he? He's always been that way, Isabel said, watching her cousin as he swam back to shore. He padded over to the outdoor showers directly opposite from where they were sitting on the terrace and began rinsing himself off. Amelia stared brazenly at him. Yes, definitely a 10.
It's so good.
That's a great scene. Oh, I love it. So we have some really great questions that the audience has for you both and individually. I'm just going to go with what's come first, and we're just going to go in order of which they came. So the first question is, how do you balance your own vision of your original manuscript with all of the various stakeholders, examples, agents, editors, publishers? Did you ever have to convince any of them to keep a character or a scene or a chapter? Do you stick to your intuition, or do you tend to heed to what the stakeholders have to say? And this is a question from Crystal Lee.
So
Lauren, you
I'll go first. So this is only like my first book. So like for me, it was like a real learning process because obviously as a writer, you're like, oh, it's my baby, right? I don't want to cut this or that. But actually, I think in the end, I pretty much heeded all the advice my editor and my agent gave me. And I think, Yeah, I think it turned out fine. There were certain things that they suggested that I maybe didn't agree with in the first place, but I think your editors, your agents, they have much more experience in the publishing industry than you most of the time. So it's actually a good idea to just like heed their advice, because most of the time it comes from a good place, and you're going to learn a lot if you open yourself up and to receive constructive criticism without just like shutting it down and saying it's my book, no one's touching it. And that's just a really bad attitude to have as a writer, because you need to learn, right? So that's how I view it.
Yeah. Constructive criticism is very important. I totally
Yeah,
get
it's
it.
really important.
Yeah, but you did produce a great book, so you listened to the right advice. Kevin, what do you have to say?
So yeah, I also really always count on my team, and I have an amazing agent and an amazing editor who, whenever she suggests an edit, it always makes the book better. So why shouldn't I listen to her? I mean, she's amazing. She's amazing, and I think she helps to make my work better. It's funny because I usually agree with everything she says. In this book, this new book, Sex and Vanity, there was a scene which she reacted against, and it was a sex scene, I have to tell you. And I thought, I'm no expert at writing sex scenes, first of all, and I actually don't enjoy writing them, I've discovered. But the book is called Sex and Vanity, and it wouldn't be Sex and Vanity without at least like a PG-13 scene somewhere, right?
Yes.
So I wrote the scene, and the reaction was just so controversial. It was like, no, Kevin, no. And I was like,
put it away.
do I really? Because it is meant to be provocative, And so I remember this was back, before COVID happened, and I had a dinner party, and I had these friends over, and I was like, can someone tell me if I'm off my rocker? Because my editor hates the scene. My agent hates the scene. All the women I read this to, they cringe.
Oh no.
What is going on, right? So I read this section in my manuscript to this, it was maybe like 8 people I had over for dinner, different ages, different genders, just people that I could really count on. And they just laughed and laughed and laughed. And they're like, Kevin, this scene is magic. You have to keep it in. It's brilliant. It's original. I didn't know that was possible. So I stood my ground, and I was like, I'm leaving this scene in because I feel like the book is called Sex and Vanity. And it's funny. Over the next few weeks, so many people called me from my publishers, and they were like, Kevin, we're seriously concerned that if you put this scene in, that's all anyone's ever going to talk about in your book. Like, you're going to overshadow the storyline, the romance, the wedding. Like, it's just, everyone's just going to talk about the scene. And so it took me a while, but I finally was like, okay, I'm going to try to rewrite it. So we wrote it. I threw away that scene. I rewrote a whole new scene, which I'm actually really happy with, which I think actually makes the book better and is more reflective of the characters and who they are. And it's funny also, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
For those of you who are in the know, this is the scene that happens after the housewarming party.
Okay, I wasn't sure if we were talking about the same scene because I was wondering if that's the one you're talking about.
Exactly. And so originally it was, I guess, way more controversial.
Oh my.
But really, like based on a real story that I'd heard, from a friend, which I think made it funny because it was so weird and original. The new scene is weird and original, but in a whole different way. But I'm glad I changed it. My publishers really did say, like, this is going to get you so much controversy for all the wrong reasons. And also, you have children reading your books. And I'm like, well, children shouldn't be reading my books. It's called second quality, first of all. You know what I mean? And I was like,
Yeah.
I don't read my books. And then last week, I got an email from an 11-year-old fan. 11 years old, and he can't wait to read my new book. And I'm just like, okay, I'm so glad I didn't put that scene in.
Oh my goodness.
I really want that scene now. I feel like we need to talk, Kevin. Like,
I am very
I need
curious
to-
about the Kevin Kwan cut.
Yeah, exactly. I want a blooper reel. Okay.
Yeah. That is awesome. I mean, that scene is pretty funny still,
yeah.
what is in the book. And it's weird to describe it, but I would say I was delightfully uncomfortable the entire time I read it. And I was chuckling and squeaming, and it was great.
That's what I wanted to happen. You know, it was going to be funny, but also kind of like really kind of ew. Like just ew,
right?
Right? And apparently the original scene was way more ew. And I'm glad I did.
Well, my inquiring mind would love to see that original. But so that's
mine too.
Right.
I really want to see that.
Yeah, that would be great.
Yeah.
Oh, no, don't apologize. The next question is actually geared towards you, Lauren. The question is, which Hawker is your favorite?
Oh, no. I'm saying, oh, no, because, like, I want to tell the truth, and that probably means, like, a lot of people will go there now, and I might not get a table next time. But, okay, never mind. So, I love black pepper crab. I guess everybody who goes to Singapore needs to like have some crabs. So like the place that I go to is called Ing Sing. It's kind of like a nondescript like is it a hawker? Yeah. No, I don't know if it's a hawker. Sorry, but it's this place. It's not very fancy, and it's in the east. It's on a road called Juchat, and it's really good. So yeah.
Awesome.
Should I type it out? I should type it out, maybe.
Sure, yeah.
I'll type it out. Yeah.
Planning to go. I mean, I wish I could go. It sounds delightful. You had me at crabs. I'm from Maryland. I'm in Maryland, so we love our crabs up here. Speaking, and then this next question is a general question for both of you. Melissa asked, "Did you picture yourself as a writer when you were younger?"
So I definitely did not picture myself as a writer at all. I wanted to be a marine biologist. Speaking of crabs, I was fascinated by the sea, and I collected fish, and I like at this aquarium, and I would always go like snorkeling, and like so like I was truly like wanting to be a marine biologist when I was a kid. No interest in writing whatsoever. I didn't discover writing till my senior year of high school.
Wow. Well, I'm glad you found
early.
How about you, Lauren?
I've always liked writing, and I guess I've been writing competitively for short stories for quite some time. I mean, I've placed in some writing competitions and stuff, so I've been writing short stories at least for some time. And I guess in my mind, I always thought that one day in the future I would like write like a novel, but like way later in my life. But I just started writing this book, and I just couldn't stop. So here we are.
I'm glad you didn't stop, because it's a great one. The next one is geared specifically towards Lauren. From where in Malaysia do you hail? My father is from, I'm probably going to butcher this, so I totally apologize, Ipoh, and my mother is from Cebu.
No, you said them right, I guess. So I'm from Kuala Lumpur, but I live like right. But I lived like half my life abroad. So yeah, I guess I'm from KL. I mean, I'm back in KL right now, but yeah, I don't know where I call home, to be honest. I'm from KL. That's the short answer.
I like it. And KL does have a great
Carmen, right? Am I on? You know, you are friends with Carmen. Sue.
Oh, I actually met Carmen through a mutual connection, a mutual contact. We're not exactly friends, but she's been really kind to like offer her platform up to me. That's how. Yeah.
Well,
I haven't met her yet.
Yeah.
She's great though.
Yeah, Carmen Sue was in Crazy Rich Asians. She played the beautiful and very bitchy Francesca, and she's one of the biggest stars in Malaysia and the Philippines. Also, she did a lot of Filipino operas, so she's amazing. But I just
Yeah.
I figured out the connection. It's like I think Carmen sent me your book.
Yes.
Yeah. So
Ish.
yeah,
Yeah.
very cool. But
Carmen's great. Yeah.
yeah.
Very, very cool. So the next question is from Jordan. Jordan asks, this is for both of you, do you keep an ongoing list of ideas for your next novel? If so, how do you choose which idea or theme to address next?
So I keep a list in my mind, and it just kind of like jumbles in there for years and years and years. And I think when I do begin a new book, I will sit down and I will just like write out every bad idea, every little thing. There's like sometimes just keywords that I'll just write down, and I will consult the list as I'm writing. But oftentimes, like I really stray off the list. I find, and I'll when I finish a book, I'll go back to the list and go, oh, I didn't write about that, but oh well, it didn't work out. So that's what I do.
That's cool. Lauren, what do you do?
So I have like an Evernote
Oh.
note, many notes, and every time I get like a snippet of conversation or a joke, I just like put it in there. And so, how do I choose what to put in my next book? I don't know. I haven't written my next book yet, so we'll see.
Awesome.
I have
All
a
right.
question for Lauren. Do you mind?
Of course.
So
No, go ahead.
How does your mom feel about your book?
Oh, so
Has
she
she
hasn't read the. No, she has. She has the book though. She like bought 5 copies. I told her not to because like I was gonna get copies from both publishers, right? But she's like, no, I gotta buy your book. So she bought like 5 copies. But I think she's gotten them, but I don't think she's read them. Like I told her not to read it without me giving her an author's note because I feel like she might take some of the scenes personally. But no, she hasn't read the book yet. I don't think. I would have heard from her by now if she had. Yeah.
Well, it took my mom a few years to read my first book too. So you're we're
Okay,
having
great.
experiences. Yeah.
All right, good.
Didn't have no interest, until a few years later, and then she actually really loved it when she finally did read it. So, hope that's what happens for you.
Yeah, I hope the same.
Yeah.
I hope so too, because it is fantastic.
It will validate how good it is for you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I'm not sure.
Well, cool. So the next one then is actually a question geared towards Kevin. This is, I am interested in the art and architecture in Sex and Vanity. Can you talk a little about that? Where does your love and knowledge of art? Because you definitely listed a bunch of artists that I had to Google while I was reading the book. So where did that love come from?
Well, I don't know. Some people might know. I actually went to art school. After I went to writing school, I was one of these strange people. I got 2 different bachelor degrees. And so my second degree was in art school. And so I am a visual artist. And I also love design and architecture. I'm like a total architecture geek. And so I just always just put what I know and love in my books, and recently there's been a specific type of art that I'm been drawn towards, which is, I would say, like contemporary sort of color field minimalism. So those are a lot of those writers that ended up being, artists that ended up being in the new book, like Helen Frankenthaler and Morris Lewis and Yoon Hyun Kyun, who's this great minimalist Korean artist. So it's always like, what I'm focused on at the time, And with the design and the architecture, I also, was able to use that specifically for like the housewarming scene, when one of the characters, when Cecil designs his dream house. And I really had fun, doing a mashup of all like the greatest new architectural trends and putting it on one house, So just had fun with that. And thank you. So I hope you find it interesting and look up all the different people I talk about, because they're all amazing artists and designers and and architects in their own right.
Oh yeah, they were Googling them. I fell down a few rabbit holes. I'm not gonna lie, because just Google imaging. But I would love to see Cecil's house at some point because it just sounded wonderful, especially like the real kitchen versus the other kitchen. Anyway, I won't go too in detail. The readers can enjoy the book themselves. All right, the next one is geared towards Lauren. Did you work in a big international firm like Andrea, and have you given up the practice of law entirely, or do you still practice? And this is from Barbara.
Oh, so actually, my first legal job was with the United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees. So I actually started out not in corporate law, but when I moved to Luxembourg, I did work in a really large law firm there called Aron and Metternach. And then I worked for a little bit in the Central Bank of Luxembourg as a legal counsel. And after that, I worked with Doctors Without Borders. And I'm not practicing law in any form anymore. But I guess we never really stopped being lawyers. That's what I'm told. And I do use a little bit of that in my book. Yeah.
Yeah, if I can quote the acknowledgments, you promised that you used at least 2% of your knowledge in the book, which I thought was great. And then last question from Lizzie is, how many words do you guys write per day? And do you give yourself a daily writing goal or just kind of fly by?
So I don't really count words. It's you know, like I just, as you know, writing this book and the last few books, I just really dedicate hours, you know. So I write from around 8:30 in the morning till 1, and then I take a break.
Okay.
Between 1 and 4. That's when I check my email and check my voicemail and do all the other housekeeping stuff that I have to do to, you know, stay alive. And then I go back to writing at around 4:30, and I write till about 8. So on a good day, I'll put in like 6 to 7 hours writing. And sometimes nothing really happens. Sometimes it's a bad chapter, you know. Sometimes it's, you know, I can write half a chapter. So it's always very different. But the one advice I have to people who want to write and take it seriously, and this is something that I learned the first time around, and I used the first time around when I was writing Crazy Rich Asians, which was just try to write a page a day, 1 page a day. And that was my goal when I was writing Crazy Rich Asians, because if you were able to do that every single day, by the end of the year, you'll have a book, you know?
Yeah.
I like that. No, habit forming is very important. I've heard several authors who have a strict, like, these are the hours I work, and even if nothing comes from it, the habit is where it's at. So that's really cool that that's your process. How about you, Lauren?
I concur. So basically, when I was trying to finish my first novel, which I completed in under a year, I set myself a target of like writing maybe 500 words a day. And I would do it at night because I was working in a day job back then. And I just basically had the habit of writing every day. And if you don't do that, then you get like, oh, I'm going to wait till the muse visits me and I get inspiration, which is complete bullshit. So if you want to complete a book, you have to do it every day. You have to write every day, like Kevin says. And, you know, you got to set yourself either like a set number of hours or like a minimum number of words you need to hit a day. So yeah, do that.
It's like working out, you know, you just have to commit and do, you know, even if you hate it, even if you're not inspired, you know, you just keep moving the needle forward, I think, you know, and that's what separates doing this professionally, you know, and just sort of dabbling, you know.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
All right. So Jamie had mentioned this during the introduction, so we're going to bring that topic back, and that is film adaptation. We're going to start with Kevin, but then I have a question for Lauren that will be related to film and your book. The first part is from Crystal. Kevin, do you know when the sequel to the Crazy Rich Asians movie is coming out? Is it going to be a lot of the same cast, especially the hint we got of one of them at the end of the movie, or has COVID put a halt to movie production?
I mean, COVID really has put a halt to the movie production. We were planning on beginning shooting this fall. That's not going to happen, but our goal is to start shooting next year, as soon as we can, all safely get together and shoot. And maybe it can still happen this fall, but it's everything is, we're looking at it from a week by week basis, and with such a huge cast and having to shoot overseas and all the various issues and the fact that Americans can't go anywhere right now, like no countries will let us in. It's tricky. So, but it's kind of a silver lining because it's really allowed us to take more time to really go back into the script and really polish and really get things right. And I think everyone wants to make the best movie possible. So we're really going to try to get into production as soon as we possibly can, early next year. And then hopefully the movie comes out, very soon after that. That is the goal. And yes, a lot of the favorite characters are returning.
Yay!
Especially, hopefully Harry Shum. And that storyline, will really be a big part of the next movie. But that's all I can say for now.
Well, I certainly can't wait. I have to say, some of my coworkers and I snuck out of a work dinner early so that we could catch Crazy Rich Asians right when it premiered. So I'm very excited. We're probably going to do the same thing. Hopefully no one at work is listening to this. But so
They are.
Oh, they totally are. I know.
Yeah.
Please don't fire me. So to Lauren, and then I'm going to ask this of you too, Kevin. If you could have Last Thing Standing turning into a film, who would you like to play Andrea?
I don't have anyone in mind for Andrea. I don't have anyone in mind for Andrea, but I do have like a dream cast for the rest. So, so for Eric Ding, maybe Chow Yun-fat is a little bit too old for the character, but I still think he's gorgeous and I love him. So if Chow Yun-fat wants to be in my film, I would love him to be Eric Ding. But someone actually told me about this actor from Indonesia who's Chindo, and his name is like Ferry Salim. I hope I'm saying it right. And he would be awesome as Eric Ding. And for Suresh, there is this actor from Grey's Anatomy and Never Have I Ever. I think his name is Rushi Kota. I'm not sure if I'm saying it right, but he would be great as Suresh. Yeah.
Very cool. I would totally watch that if that movie ever came out. Kevin, if you could cast Lucy, George, and/or Cecil, who would they be?
Oh wow, yeah, that's really really tough.
If you don't feel like answering for all three of them,
I can't, only because for matter of diplomacy, there's so many actors that I know now that would be in their name. But I can say, I think that for Rosemary Zhao, Michelle Yeoh would just kill it.
Oh, that would be so cool.
So that's I put out there. That would be a dream. Yeah.
That would be neat. I could see that. That would be great. Awesome. So to wrap things up, I'm going to do some quick rapid fire questions that are just meant to be fun. If you don't feel like answering, just say pass. It's totally fine. Oh, wait, someone just threw in a final question. Let's see here. Kevin, who from Crazy Rich Asians would be enemies, best friends with your new characters from Sex and Vanity? I feel like some of that question is answered in the book, but
answered in the book. So you're going to read the book, and there might be some surprises in terms of who shows up.
Yes, I did get a chuckle. I did squeal a little bit when I saw some of the cameos. I was like, hey, as if I recognized them as old friends. Then one last question from also for Kevin. Are you recognized out in public now? How does that make you feel if you are?
Only in the most random circumstances. Like it's always when you least expect. I was pulling out of a parking lot, a couple of months ago. And there were 4 cars after my space, and I saw people waving frantically, and I thought I'd hit a car, And I rolled out the window, and it was like 4 Filipinos going, "Hey, can we have a selfie?" Like, not right now. Like I'm like, in the middle of like, trying to get out of the space, like.
Well, that's too funny.
Random places, but it's always really a delight when it happens. So
you're saying if I see you pulling out of a parking spot, not to stop you, wait until you're fully out, and then I stop you. Okay.
Exactly.
All right. Cool. All right. All right. So for some rapid fire questions, the first one is actually inspired by Kevin Kwan's biography at the back of Sex and Vanity, because you wrote, or someone wrote, Kwan lives in Los Angeles and is trying to eat less pasta. So the first rapid fire question is, what is your favorite noodle dish?
Lauren, or we're not really rapid firing, are we? Yeah.
No, I mean, we don't have to repeat. It's not like do or die. Like, Lauren, yeah, what is your favorite noodle dish?
I don't know all of it.
I mean, I feel that way.
Yeah,
I eat everything. Like, the more gluten, the better.
I like
Yeah,
it.
I would be a Hokkien fried noodle, like a fried yellow noodle in a thick gravy.
Ooh, yeah, that's good. Yeah.
Like traditional, like Hokkien chami. Really my favorite, ultimately.
I like char kway teow. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's good.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Those sound very delightful. The next question is, hold on. Okay, sorry. Got a smidge distracted by something else. The next question then is, drinks are definitely flowing in the book. What is your favorite drink? And it doesn't have to be alcoholic. If there's a tea beverage that you prefer, or anything like that. Just wondering what your favorite go-to beverage is after a long day. And we can start with Lauren and then Kevin.
So I love tea. I love oolong. I love this tea called Feng Huang Danchun. I'm not sure if I'm saying it right because my Mandarin's pretty bad, but I love tea, so I drink a lot of it. Well, I like white wine. I like red wine.
Yeah,
I like all the wines. I like Sancerre, and I like Pinot Gris from Luxembourg. Okay, sorry, I'm not going to go down a whole list. So I love wine. Yeah, I drink a lot of it, but not too much. And I love whiskey. I drink whiskey as well. I love single malt whiskeys. Yeah, I drink a lot of whiskey.
That's great. I have whiskey and wine at all times in my apartment, so I feel you.
Okay.
Kevin, what's your go-to?
So I'm really into icy beverages. The slushier the better. So a Bellini is great. A pina colada is great.
Mm.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I like sweet, alcoholic, icy drinks. But I also, right now I'm obsessed with this. A friend of mine, he invented a whole new process of extracting coffee.
Ooh.
And this amazing, it's called Ultra Coffee. It's called Jot, J-O-T. And you can create the most amazing alcoholic and non-alcoholic coffee drinks now. So right now, I'm drinking this, you can't really see it, but it's the Jot coffee plus tonic water plus a squeeze of lemon. And it's just the most awesome caffeine kick that's good for you, So that's my current obsession.
That sounds wonderful. Yeah. I love all things coffee. All right, and your characters travel to some pretty amazing places. So if you could pick one, you can pick two. I'm not picky. What is your favorite vacation spot? Lauren, sorry.
Me? Okay. I don't know. I've been to a lot of really cool places. The last really amazing place I was at was New Zealand.
Oh.
I was in the South Island. My husband and I did this whole road trip. It was amazing. So I guess New Zealand.
That sounds awesome.
Yeah.
How about you, Kevin?
I would love to be in New Zealand right now.
Right.
Zero cases, right? I love New Zealand, but I would have to say, really, it's a tie between Capri, which I write all about in the new book, which is just this amazing island, and I love Palawan in the Philippines. That's another complete paradise that I think is so undiscovered and so beautiful.
Yeah, the Philippines has some good.
I think I've been there.
Have
Sorry,
you?
I didn't mean to interrupt. Yeah, I went diving at this place called Mual Bual. Oh God, I hope I'm saying it right. And they have like whale sharks there, and I think that's in Palawan.
Palawan's a huge region, so there's lots of different
Yeah.
islands and different areas. There's Coron, there's El Nido, stuff like that. Virginia, did we meet in Manila by any way?
No, I am born and raised here in the U.S.
You
But
have a doppelganger, I swear to God, because when I saw you on screen, I was like, she was at Cheng Cruz's party in Manila, and literally there's someone that's a spitting image of you.
oh wow, that's so funny because
I
there's
had
been
a long conversation with that told me she wanted to go into publishing. So I was like, did she go into publishing? And is she
well, if you ever see her again, I would love to meet her because there are doppelgangers around that someone will randomly see me and get into a conversation calling me like Lisa or something. And it turns and I'm like, I'm sorry, I'm not Lisa. It actually got really awkward because in college, I apparently had a doppelganger that the nurses both thought would be like, are you this girl or this girl? And it's like, oh God, please don't mix our medical records. That would be awful. But no, I have been to the Philippines, but I haven't been to Palawan. I went to Luzon, and that's roughly where and then I went to Marinduque specifically because that's my mom's childhood home is in there, and then explored Manila a bit because why not? But the beaches in the Philippines are absolutely gorgeous. The cleanest water I've ever seen is in a beach.
Amazing. Yeah.
Yeah. And then the last question, and this is actually a Bookmarks tradition. So to finish everything up, and it is, what is your current book recommendation? What are you currently reading that you would recommend, or is the current obsession? You don't have to pick one. If you want to pick two, you totally can. Lauren?
I'm reading Kevin Kwan's book. Yeah, but I'm also reading Beth O'Leary's Flatshare, the Flatshare. Yeah, I love it, and I mean, I hadn't had the opportunity to finish it before, and I'm basically doing that now. So she's
cool.
great.
Yeah, and I'm reading Lauren's book and really loving it, and I have to do it in small doses because it is the way you capture these characters. They're so real to life. And they're so traumatic to me because
I'm sorry.
all my aunties and all their constant nagging at me all the time, that I just have to but I'm loving it. So thank you for giving voice to more of these characters, which I think, it's so important to really share that with the world. So congratulations. Loving your book. Can't wait to get back to it. I have to read a chapter every other night. But another book that I've really it's hard to say fall in love with because it's such a difficult book in terms of its subject matter, but it's called Notes on a Silencing by Lacey Crawford. It's a biography. It's a memoir. Lacey attended St. Paul's, which is the most elite private school in America.
Oh, wow.
There are more presidents, senators, Forbes 400 members who've attended the school than any other school in America. And it's the oldest private prep school in America. And something horrifying happened to her in that school while she was there at age 15. And, it's just so gripping and so beautiful, beautifully told. She took a tragedy and turned it into a diamond. That's all I can say. It's coming out next week, actually.
Oh, okay. And what was the title again? I'm sorry.
Notes on a Silencing.
Notes on a Silencing.
Put it down here for everyone. How's that? Notes
Thank
on
you.
a Silencing.
Very cool. Well, thank you both so much for doing this event. I can see a lot of other people in the comments are very grateful for you two as well. They clearly enjoyed it. So I hope you both had good fun and my questions weren't too awful. But I believe that Jamie had a few things to wrap things up. So I'm going to turn it over to you, Jamie.
Thank you so much, Virginia.
Oh, my pleasure.
Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much. Thank you.
Thank you all so much. And thank you to all of our attendees for joining us from so many different states and different countries too. So special thanks to Lauren. It's super early where you live. So thank you for joining us so early in the morning.
All right.
And she looks so beautiful and fresh.
Yeah.
Thank you. Really appreciate that.
And thank you for providing such a wonderful dialogue between our two author guests tonight. We really appreciate you and all you do for bookstores in our area. So thank you all. And we'll send a follow-up email with those book suggestions that Lauren and Kevin just suggested. But until we see you all again, have a good evening and thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you so
Bye.
much.
Have a great night, everyone.
Thank you so
Bye.
much.